may I have a motion that we only discuss those items for which we went into closed session? One item under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1, discussion of prospective candidates for appointments, Planning Commission and Housing Authority, and one item under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A7, consultation with legal counsel.
So moved.
Second.
And may I have a roll call for that, please?
Mr. Penn?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.
All right, now if you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Reese and invocation led by Councilman Dawson, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads if you may. Heavenly Father, thank you for all of the many blessings you have given our town and citizens. We ask your wisdom as we work to guide the future of our town. In your name, amen.
All right, I would like to recognize the guests here and online today. I want to thank you for coming. Okay, so do we have any modifications for public session? Don't think there are.
No, you're.
So the first one we're going to do is we have a presentation, and that's for the Calfee School, or I'm sorry, Calfee Community Cultural Center. Jill Williams and Mickey Hickman, please.
We are so pleased to be here with you all tonight to give you an update on this important project for which the town has been a vital partner throughout since its beginning. So really happy to be here. We're also, of course, making a request, but we're going to give you a little update first. Jessica, thank you. I'm not going to read through all of these, but I just wanted to remind you all that this process started with an extensive visioning session. Mr. Penn, Jamie Radcliffe, Mr. Radcliffe, and Mr. Reese were all a part of this full-day visioning process that we held. We also had surveys, and the needs that arose that the community hoped would be addressed at the Calfee Training School, the historic school, is the fact that we have a really amazing history here in this community. But not only do people around the country not know about it, most people here in our own community don't know about it. So that was one of the needs. Another, of course, that you all have heard about a lot, I'm sure, is that we're in a childcare desert. Only about 8.5% of the children below preschool age have licensed childcare spots. In fact, when we first moved back, I was working full-time. My husband was a stay-at-home dad. He got a job offer. And even if we had been millionaires, which we're not, we couldn't find childcare. So he had to turn down that job. So this is a problem that harms people across the income spectrum. 1 in 4 residents in the town of Pulaski live below the poverty line. Local employers have told us as we've talked to them that high levels of absenteeism due to a lack of childcare are one of the biggest problems that they have with retaining employees. Of course, there are high barriers for food-based business entrepreneurs, mostly in the form of a lack of a health department certified kitchen, and 30% of Pulaski County residents lack internet access. Of course, that latter point is being addressed now at the county level. We've been working on this for a few years, but we also know that a lot of our community members are not literate when it comes to basic computer skills. So the plan is for us to address this through 6 functions at the future Calfee Community and Cultural Center. The first, of course, will be a museum. We've just gotten a $50,000 grant, kicked off a planning process for that this weekend, where people got really energized. Our hope is that this will not only allow us to educate the local community about this history, but that it will be a tourism draw to the community, much like our outdoor recreation opportunities are. We'll have a community kitchen that will not only address the child care, the nutritional needs for the child care center, but we'll also have a Donate What You Can cafe there, so hoping to also provide food service for people across the income spectrum in a way that would be financially sustainable. We'll have a child care center that will serve almost 100 children. This will be children across the income spectrum because we'll be partnering with Head Start, with the Pulaski County Public Schools, and with the YMCA. We've played an integral role, I think, in bringing those groups together. They have not been always great at communicating with each other. And I think this CalFEE project has really created opportunities not only to address and prepare for the Child Care Center at CalFEE, but also to better meet the needs of all of our county's children. We'll have some beautiful natural outdoor play spaces, a digital learning lab that will address and provide basic digital literacy opportunities, workforce development classes, all the way up to some digital editing and more advanced computer skills that we hope will help young people or people of all ages here to be able to go to work. I don't know if you all know how much you have to pay website designers and video editors, but it's a lot of money, and I would love it if my kids went into it because it's a great field and you can command a lot of nice income that way. We'll also have an event hall and office spaces for rent. Given that Al's is shrinking its footprint for the restaurant, we are really excited about the ways this will meet the needs of the community because it will be adjacent to that commercial kitchen. Since we've presented to you last, we've had a lot of updates. A lot of work has been done on putting these plans together. I'm not going to talk a lot about each of those, but want you to see our beautiful renderings. This is our floor plan. It's actually an older version of our floor plan. Our new one includes a more expansive kitchen. This is the most recent renderings of what the building will look like from the outside. These were produced by our new architects and engineers, Balzer and Associates. We worked with the Regional Commission, and we had some visioning processes that engaged a diverse group of people in creating plans for natural outdoor spaces. One of the things we heard from CalFEE alumni was, because of the underfunding of African American schools, they didn't have playground equipment. They didn't have recreational even basketballs there. And that forced the children to come up with games they played on their own. One of the games they came up with called Murder Ball, which sounds very dramatic. But we know now, research shows us that creative play is actually best for children in all sorts of ways. And so we're trying to figure out how not to underfund these kids who are going to be at the facility, but how to help them have their brains develop, as we know research tells us that they should at this age, with creative play. So we're really excited about that. The pre-K playground will include, if you've been over to the space, you've seen a metal building on the outside that Madbox built in. We're going to take we're going to take the walls off that building and leave a roof up for an outdoor classroom. These plans were developed during COVID, the height of COVID pandemic, so hopefully we never have anything like that again, but if we do, we'll be well equipped to have safe spaces outside for kids to get education. And then some of you might have seen or heard about the nature walk we're planning. The nature walk is going to be open to the public, as is the playground space outside of childcare hours. This is a space back behind. Even if you've been on the property, you might not realize how far back that property goes beyond where the grass gets mowed. But we're hoping to utilize that part at the back of the property for a nature walk. It's going to be called the Walter Jingles White Sankofa Walk. If any of you all know Jingles, he has been probably one of the biggest cheerleaders of this project and people in the community. We've now raised, I think, $15,000 in the name of this, just people wanting to honor him. So the bad news, that was all exciting. The bad news is that earlier this year, we really thought we had raised just about all the money we needed for this project. Our cost estimates for the project as of July 2020 said that we needed about $200,000 for architect and engineering design fees. We needed a little over $2 million for construction and about $1 million for furniture, fixtures, and equipment and startup costs. As you can see, if that were still the case, we have less than $200,000 that we still need to raise for furniture, fixtures, and equipment and startup costs. Unfortunately, in April, or fortunately, as the case may be, it's good to have the information, we got a revised construction estimate, which put our construction costs at just under $4 million. So what you see here in the yellow is the money that we still need to raise in order to pull this project off. Whereas before, we only had to raise a little under $200,000, now we need to raise, the better part of $2 million. We do have a pathway to get there. In addition to historic tax credits, we have, Senator Warner and Senator Kane have worked to get $500,000 into the Senate version of the budget proposal from the National Park Service for this project. So I have no idea how long it's going to take for that to get passed, but they feel very confident that this will happen. They even sent out a press release about that recently. I think Dr. Hickman was on Channel 7 News at 6 o'clock talking about that. So we're excited about that possibility. And the United States Economic Development Administration we had applied for a grant from them earlier that ended up being very competitive. We did not get that grant, but our main contact there contacted Darlene and said, we really want to see this project through. And so I'm working with her on what we're going to request is $1 million grant. She said she thought that was eminently reasonable because there's so much interest in this type of a project because of all the boxes it checks. The only downside of that grant is that it requires a 20% local match. So if you can see, it's very small up there. You can see we are requesting $100,000 from Pulaski County and $100,000 from you all, the town of Pulaski, to help us leverage all the rest of this money. Go ahead. We are not only going to government sources for funding. As of the beginning of this month, we had raised just over $650,000 from private sources. You can see how that falls out. That's 8 private foundation grants, 1 donor over $100,000. I hope he won't mind if we mention that that's Sheeler Motor Mile and David Hagan and Larry Sheeler. Very excited about this project. They also have agreed to purchase the state historic tax credits to allow us to get that money. And then you can see how the other donations, we have had an amazing amount of support from this local community, businesses, foundations, and local individuals. So the requirements, as Darlene is smart to ask, the requirements for these grants, the EDA grant carries no additional requirements other than that 20% local match. All of the requirements, all of the deliverables that they would require of us are deliverables that we have already committed to meeting through the Appalachian Regional Commission grant and the Community Development Block Grant. Those are basically that the project will be completed in a timely and compliant manner, the renovation and refitting of the child care facility, digital learning lab, kitchen, and the event space. And then the outcomes we've promised are 18 local full-time jobs at the community center. 64 local full-time jobs will be retained, 36 of those for low to moderate income individuals in Pulaski County because of child care and food services at the center. And 3 food-based businesses will be either started or scaled up in the space in the first year of operation. Actually, we're not required to do that in the first year, but we're very confident we can do that in the first year. So the timeline that we are hoping to stick to, I'm told these projects always take longer than we think they're going to, but our timeline is we're engaged in the capital campaign and getting our final construction designs prepared and also reviewed by the Department of Historic Resources now. We hope to go to a process with the town of procuring a contractor either towards the end of this year or early next year, construction during 2023, and then we hope at some point, earlier than later, but it may be mid-2024, we're hoping to open the doors. And what we're asking of you tonight is to consider making a financial contribution to this project contingent on the following. We understand that you all need some security. You don't want to just throw money at this project and not have it happen. So contingent on a successful application for $1 million grant from the EDA, matching up to a contingent on the Pulaski County Board of Supervisors matching up to $100,000. And just so you know, I asked them if they wanted us to come and make this presentation to them, and they said, why don't you wait and see what the town does? So I imagine we will be making that presentation if you all approve this, and also contingent on the Calfee Community and Cultural Center raising the funds needed to complete the project. So is there anything else I have on there? Do I have another slide? I think that's it. I think let me just say one other thing that I appreciate before I hand it over to Dr. Hickman. The town has been a really important partner with this project from the beginning. Having Darlene here has been really helpful. Not only has she contributed valuable advice based on her extensive experience on projects like this, but I have recently figured out, might not even know this, but how to play good cop to her bad cop. So sometimes when people, charge us more money than I think they should have charged us, I'll say, well, I'm okay with that, but I'm going to have to see what Mrs. Burcham thinks. And usually I get what I want when I do that. So it's been really wonderful to work with you, Darlene. Thank you.
I want to introduce Mr. Hickman as an avid pickleball player who has agreed that when we open our pickleball court, he and his grandson will
youngest one.
be first on the court to show us how it's being done. So just keep that in mind.
Mayor Collins, council members, Madam Town Manager, thank you for this audience. I don't know, as I listened to Jill, I didn't know exactly what she was going to talk about, so I'm going to be redundant just about in everything that I say here, except that I realize in your roles in local government, your decision makers, your managers, and you serve as proper stewards of the town resources. And I've watched you, and I know you take those roles very seriously. I would ask that you think about our project. I would ask, as I go through my own little summary, that you visualize what this project is about. I think this project is very ambitious. Some places do one thing, offer one thing. A child care center, which is foremost in our plans, is a very good thing. And if we didn't do anything else, that would be a very worthy project. And if you granted us this money to help with that, that would be a sensational thing that this council would be doing. But we're also featuring a community kitchen. And I've been to the one in Wythe County, and I've been one in Montgomery County. I don't know you. I'm a lifelong Pulaski native, so I like for us to keep up. With these. They have a rec center in Wythe County, and they have a rec center in Montgomery County. I hope someday that we have one, but we have a great park in the county that they don't have. So, but I have that pride, that sense of civic pride about our community, and so I would like to see that. And that kitchen is something that will serve a very good function. And again, in your wisdom, if you help us with this, you're a part of this story. The event center, I see so many wonderful things happening. There are programs and events and celebration. I have a side hustle. I'm the spin doctor. I DJ. I've been over to the train station many a time. I've done Valentine's Day parties, St. Patrick's Day parties, birthday parties, graduation parties and things. I know that venue is very important to the community. We've tried to get it for family reunions and Thanksgiving dinner, and that place fills up in a hurry. It's booked. So there's need for that, and Broadno Baker Center will help fill that void. So I thank you in advance for all the celebration and the extra business that I'm going to get as a DJ, because we have this new event center. The museum. We have a remarkable history Jill's already alluded to. And this museum will commemorate those people. It'll recognize them and remember them. And it will retell the stories about what took place in that community. It is really amazing that we had Thurgood Marshall come here. that we had the NAACP take a prominent role. People don't understand that the NAACP carried the baton first in the civil rights movement. Most people think of the civil rights movement, they rightly think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. But before that, it was the NAACP. And those attorneys came here and they strategized with Pulaski parents. Dr. Percy Corbin launches a second litigation. There's a first litigation, but I won't tell you in all those details. And they lost at the district court level, but they won at the appellate court level. And Thurgood Marshall is on record saying that the arguments that they used in the Pulaski case, and by the way, Corbin wasn't the only litigant in that case. There were 23 other African-American parents that filed petitions that became litigants. And this is in the late 1930s, and this was a time when it was dangerous. There was peril for African Americans doing this sort of thing. And so that courage needs to be remembered. And so those stories and other stories are going to be housed in our museum. And so I would be certainly, that's something to be proud of, and I would be proud of you all if you supported that mission. Jill's already talked about the outdoor playground spaces and things. I have a passion for pickleball now, and so we're going to put basketball lines down, but the beauty of pickleball is we can put pickleball lines down too on our parking lot, so we make a parking lot functional. And you can put portable nets now. Pickleball is the rage, and so it'll be real easy to take a couple minutes to set up a pickleball net, and lo and behold, you have a game. And so I already see the town in this infinite wisdom, doing things like that. I see your ballpark. Your bike park. I see the basketball courts down across from Thompson Tower and the skate park. And Ms. Bertram's told me about the plans for a pickleball court up on 6th Street. So you're already moving in that direction. And so I'm going to get these old bones, who, by the way, are coming off 2 hip replacement surgeries this summer. But I'm going to be out there, and I appreciate that. And hopefully I'll be around to enjoy the pickleball court at Calfee too. But all these things, I hope you can see how beautiful and wonderful and how valuable an asset that this building will become. It once had a history that maybe was not so prominent, but great things happened there even in that history. But this is a remarkable chance to bring back that building as something even more remarkable. And so I would hope that you would subscribe to that. The last thing I would say is about the effort. I grew up in my birth family, and I care dearly about that. And then, my married I have a wonderful wife. We have a wonderful family that, I'll do anything to take care of. But this is like my third family. And so I'm just really committed to this. And for maybe the first time, I feel a civic responsibility. I've done a lot of things in my career, and Pulaski County has been wonderful for me, but I feel like I'm giving something back. And our board of directors is very diverse, 15 people, but the story doesn't end there because they do things. But we've had Mr. Ratcliffe, Mr. Reese helps, and things, Mr. Penn. There are probably 30 private individuals who volunteer their services, who help us. It's a labor of love for everyone. It's just a wonderful story. And I just think, I'm just glad to be a part of it. And the last thing I would say to you, I would implore you to think about this. I know I said before that you would be prudent stewards. It's my understanding if for some reason the project doesn't materialize, the money would come back to the town. So I think that the risk for the town is minimal, but the reward is tremendous. So I would ask that you think about it. And the final selling point we promised to put a little plaque up inside the building that has your names and things on it. Okay, so thank you.
Have just a few questions, or not questions, but a few comments on it. As most people know, we was at the start of this thing, and I always wanted to see it done because I just think I think that's the diamond we're waiting on. The school, if you have not been in that school to see what's been, it's the diamond that we've been waiting on. And I'm not as active in it as it was because they have such a great board that was set. I wanted to step back. So you guys got it. Go for it. And they have done they've worked their you-know-what all to get at this point. And I'm going to vote to help you finish this. I'm telling you that right now. You've just done a wonderful job. But Mickey, I think Jingles can still take you. I haven't seen him for a while, but I think he's pretty active. He called me the other night. He's going to get you. So, but anyway, I'm proud y'all here tonight, and I'm going to give you my 100%. But the Hash is Mr. Hash and Colette Hash sitting back. That's my second family back there. If you have never met the Hashes, they're the true representatives of Robinson. True representatives. You're just great people. I want this project done. You hit on everything that we needed. The daycare, we're behind on that. Folks, we're behind. We have so many people. I have a young son that's wife passed away that struggled to get his kids, a 5 and a 3-year-old, into the public school so he could go to work. It was a struggle. It was a waiting list. It may not have ever happened. My wife has given up so many hours to watch these kids until we get them squared away. This will take care so we can get people back to work. I understand single parents that can't work. They got kids. Kids is number one. I'm sorry, they're number one. We can get an education center in here. I see so many things that is positive about this, and I think Mickey hit on it. This $100,000, we're going to get it back. You're going to get it back, fold over. I ain't worried about it. We're going to get it back. And the only other thing I will say tonight is look at my town manager and let these other guys speak. How can we make this happen? What do you need to make this happen? And when do you guys need an answer? That's the next question. When do you need this answer?
We're submitting the application in a few weeks.
Okay.
And it would be great to be able to say we already have the money committed, but I
Okay.
can confirm this, that we can, if we need to wait longer than that, we can
But
get
so
back to them by the end of October.
okay. So we need something on by next month's meeting. We need something of a
Yes.
to say, yes, we're 100% in with you. And only other question I'm going to ask you is the financial part of there's financial, but I'm not. Do you need like the $100,000 up front? Can it be like a $25,000, $50,000, or $25,000 until this project's done? Or is that something you guys can work with our town manager and say, hey, I don't need 100. If you guys will just, if we get 25, 50, 75 right now, the next year's budget, we can budget this, or do we need this right now? I have to be up to y'all.
Need it committed.
Okay,
So when it got spent, it would need to be spent during some port during the construction. It would have to go towards the construction
Correct.
project. So I don't think
Okay.
it would matter if it was next year. I can confirm that, and I'll communicate once I confirm that with Mrs. Bertram.
okay. Well,
To build on Mr. Radcliffe's question, assuming that you put the application in the next several weeks or the next month, when is the decision to be made, and then when is their money actually available? Is this on a federal fiscal year cycle, so the money's really not gonna be here till next October, or what's that timeline, in addition to whether or not it has to be funded in
Okay.
total or in increments?
My understanding is that this money would have to be allocated, they would make a decision by the end of this year, this calendar year.
Okay.
And that once their engineers had time to look over our construction documents and approve them, that we
Okay, because then that would mean that the money's already in fund at the federal level.
And I'm unsure if it works as a reimbursement grant. I think you've had EDA grants before. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I can.
Have one right now with Jen.
Well, that would be my next question. If, I guess if I don't see nothing happening, if something was to fall through and it says, well, you're just not gonna get it, then the $100,000 would come back here. So, one way or another, we're gonna get it in a long-term investment, or we're gonna get it back this side of it, but I don't see that happening. I see the investment happening. You know, I was there when we started staying. I seen the glow of the people who actually, Mickey, who, when you guys first went into that school, the people, I think Mr. Penn, he eventually there, but the glow that, it's just amazing to see. And I'm 100% on board for it. I let these other guys speak, but I got you covered on it.
I guess in regards to the question of where would the money come from, I assume we would just be, well, obviously there's no extra money laying around, so it would be a choice of general fund reserve money, correct?
Yeah, unless, that's why I was asking the schedule of award, and whether or not that needs to be a commitment letter or actual money in fund, you know, at the time, because depending again on when the grant comes in, and what the process is for actually spending the money, we might be in the next fiscal year, which means you could budget for it in your upcoming budget process. If you were to have to not just write a letter of commitment, but actually draw $100,000 out, then it would have to come from the reserve.
So I do believe a letter of commitment, so if you all could make a commitment, I think that would count, and then it would get spent. We would just know we wouldn't have that money to spend until your next fiscal year would be fine. We just need a documented letter of commitment if we can.
I guess it's a little bit like your commitment to the transit company. You know, when they come in November, December and want you to actually approve funds that end up being in the next fiscal year, but because they have to apply in the early spring, they need that decision from you all earlier than that. So it gets to be in front of your budget process as opposed to a part of the budget process.
You don't need nothing tonight. You need it. You don't need nothing other than,
No, I think it would be okay to wait until your next,
okay.
meeting.
It gives time to write it up.
In October, well, of course, then I guess we'll have to wait until the Board of Supervisors
Yep.
next public meeting at the end of October. But I think all of that can happen, as they're considering our proposal.
And I look,
Get that commitment, they'll just take their money back, I guess.
I'll tell you this much right now, and I promise to make oath. If I can see Jingles and Mickey play pickleball, I'll put the first $100 up. I promise you that. Just to see on the court one more. This was a racquetball. This guy was a racquetball guru. He was a racquetball guru. That's what's wrong with his legs and hips, but he was when the racquetball.
He's supposedly a pickleball expert now, because he boasts a T-shirt that says that he's a pickleball.
Do you know Jingles? Well, you got to meet Jingles. He's a pretty tough guy, man. He's good.
Anyone else? Okay.
Ready?
Thank you.
Good. You awful quiet over there.
Okay.
All right, thank you
Lord
all for
bless you.
coming tonight. Now we'll move on to the public comment period. I don't have any, so I don't think there's anyone that wants to speak. So then we'll move to the consent agenda from September 6th, 2022. The minutes, if you could, somebody make a motion to accept them.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve town council meeting minutes from Tuesday, September 6, 2022.
Second.
And may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Penn?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the council comments. Mr. Penn, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything.
All right, Mr. Dawson?
I didn't have anything planned, but, just to go along with what Mr. Ratcliffe says, I understand we don't have much, or any extra money, but I think as we think about things that we've it's almost like a capital improvement project, you know, from a standpoint of things that we could do to improve our town with the Calvi Cultural Center. So I certainly am going to be on board with the thought of that. And, you know, even if we need to, you know, think about the financial side of that over the span of a couple of years, you know, to make sure that we have, you know, set aside what we need to for it, then I think we should. That's all I have.
Mr. Ratcliffe?
Just a few things. You all know it. I want to just touch bases on our park we have down here. I'm still just hearing great comments on Ms. Bertram. Once again, thank you for pushing all that forward. I've heard just great things on our park down here. Our skateboard park and basketball court, it's being well used. And that's what we wanted. That's truly what we wanted. And it looks like they're taking care of it.
I would just like to comment on that. I have been super impressed and amazed that when the trash can is full, and it stays full a lot, people are still keeping the area clean because they're
Yes.
putting the stuff beside the trash can for it to be picked up. So it's probably, knock on wood, the most litter-free area that we have in town right now. So it's tremendous, the kind of loving care that
Sure
is
is.
given to that facility by the users. It
Well
really
worth
is
it.
very, very impressive.
And I thought I seen a tent up there the other day, and I don't know whether they're selling drinks or just giving drinks, water, maybe been giving away. I don't know either way. But there was a lady there, a couple of parents. And they had a bunch of drinks, and so whatever, it's working out good. It's really a great thing. So only other thing I wanted to ask you, I've been asked about the building beside the jail. What is our future with that? I know we're going to make a parking lot there. What is the timeline? Do you have any idea?
You're talking about what used to be the perk.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Mercantile. We did demolish that building, using town funds. Property is still in the ownership of the gentleman who owes significant amount of taxes to both the town and the county, on that property. And, the town attorney, when we have that property reassessed, and we've already talked to the county assessor about visiting it, once that reassessment occurs, and that will occur as soon as we finish filling in the dirt, then he will be proceeding to take the next steps that are necessary on the judicial path for us to actually obtain title
Good deal.
to the property. And once the title comes to us, then we can make any improvements to the property itself. But right now, we're limiting any expense that we have to just the actual demolition cost, which I'll tell you is about $63,000. It was actually 3 buildings that kind of were intertwined, and we're supposed to be trying today, it may not have been accomplished, to finish filling in the hole so that we have a level ground that can then be looked at for reassessment. I don't think we'll probably be able to put a parking lot on it until springtime, given the months that will come forward, but we will hopefully be able to get control of the property between now and next spring.
The comment's really good about that end of town is really looking good, but where are we at on the jail? Are we doing
We continue to advise the county that they are not in compliance with our codes. The last conversation that I had with the county administrator, he indicated that they plan to demolish the building. I don't know what a timeline is as it relates to that. I did ask him in the meantime to at least remove the vines off the building and to repair the roof, which has been a constant code enforcement issue. But they've been given a deadline to respond on those issues, or we'll have to proceed with a summons.
Thank you.
And playfully, Jonathan tells people that I'm trying to put him in jail, and I said, not that jail.
Mr. Reese?
Thank you. On the issue of that parking lot, happened to be looking through the summary of the U.S. Army Corps and the flooding issues, and they're talking about making some changes to town code to allow for less impervious surfaces to allow it to slow the water going into the creek, hopefully. And I was wondering if at any point we have had any success with getting kind of a updated code on that or something along those lines, or maybe when we look at paving it, can we look at something that might help, not just replace one impervious surface with another? Because it seems like it's a good place to start to maybe, try to figure out, because those big paved areas, just the water just,
And there are ways in today's world that weren't necessarily
Yeah.
available in years past to deal with the runoff. And in fact, as we move to the water line replacement on West Main and then a redo of the sidewalks, we're going to be putting in some additional stormwater measures that
Great.
will facilitate the runoff going to its proper location. We'll probably be replacing the trees, and those tree beds will also become areas that can be used as part of the stormwater program.
great.
But as far as something from the Army Corps, I'm
Oh,
not,
I was just that was just where the thought occurred to me from. I was just reviewing it, and they said, make these changes to, to retention ponds and all kinds of flood mitigation. And one of the things they said was things like that, like the, natural sort of holding areas to just slow the water, as it moves from the side of the hills to the creek bed. And I don't think it has been all the way filled. And they've definitely been out there plenty. I just happen to drive by it all the time. I also wanted to say thank you, to make sure to let Sonia Ramsey and the police department know that I really appreciate it. I reached out to them late last week about some citizen complaints about issues on Magazine Street, and incredibly prompt response by her and the police department. And I know it was greatly appreciated by the residents there, because I think it's an issue that was identified, and I think it just goes to show the issues that we have with speed and driving in this community, and that how important that conversation was. And I now notice everywhere I drive how fast the speed limit is in a different way than I used to, and noting that, a 35-mile-an-hour limit really makes a lot of sense, because, you drive into Dublin, it's 35 once you get into town. It drops down, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense, even on Route 11. And that was it for me. Thank you.
I had the joy of giving some guided tours on Friday, no, Thursday. It was Thursday, to people from the rural, cannot say rural Virginia Leadership Academy, and they were from all over the state. I mean, there were some big names from, all the way to the feds. And they really loved our town. They liked what they saw. What we're doing, and with the parks and stuff like that. I really think that we're on the right. We're making the right steps. We're going forward. We can't go back in time. That's a definite. People would like to stay in the past, and it would be nice at times. But the rest of the world is not staying in the past, and we've got to move forward. And we've got our infrastructure still of our old buildings, and we're lucky because, we're renovating those. And I just want to say thank you for everything that we've been doing, the town and the people that are renovating. But it was nice to hear people from outside of our town, because there's a lot of negative that happens from inside of our town, which really frosts my shorts, but that's what we've got to deal with. But when you have someone from outside of your town and they come in and they're saying what good things we're actually doing, that gives you a little umph. And it's getting there. But it was really good. And then we had good barbecue that night from our future barbecue restaurant that'll be on Main Street. It was really good. But that's all for today, I think. So with that, Miss Burcham, do you have anything left? Because he always steals all of your stuff, so. Okay, good.
first of all, I would tell you that rural Virginia group, I spoke with the gentleman who's heading that up, and they visited the town, as I think the mayor knows, for Thursday afternoon to Friday, and then went to St. Paul for a similar event. But I was told that they intend to return to Pulaski for 2 days next year. So that in and of itself, I think, was very impressive. Secondly, if you haven't read, you need to understand that our charging station that's been in place for a while is officially being used. We've had a number of people who have commented in a positive way about it being available. And again, it's kind of the way of the future, you know, as more and more people are moving toward electric cars. And then we have those people that you just mentioned, Mr. Mayor, who want to find something wrong with everything that we do. And so we just have to keep looking ahead rather than looking behind. But it will be publicized in all of the companies' manuals or materials that do have electric cars. So we do anticipate that in addition to our residents using it, we will have visitors that will come into the area and use the charging system. It is a level 2, so it's not as slow as some, but it's not as fast as others. And so we want to make sure people spend a couple of hours visiting our town when they do come. I want to also mention that we did open bids last week for the water line replacement on West Main. We're doing some value engineering because it did come in a couple $100,000 more than we had anticipated, but that project is being funded through our ARPA funds, so we may have to adjust some of the other projects in order to accommodate that additional request. But we are well on our way to getting that awarded in the next month so that we can get that started. We will be having a meeting with the property owners on West Main so they understand the process that we will be going through. We'll actually do kind of like a third of the street at a time in order to make sure that the businesses can stay open. I want to also mention that we are hopefully much closer than we have been up to now on closing on the 2 properties on Maple Street, the one that's under construction and the one next door that we hope to start construction on. That has been a very long process in getting all of the materials that the bank that is making the line of credit available to us. But we should be able to close on that. And wanted to just ask the council to return to closed session at the end of this meeting. And I apologize, but I do need to add to that list one item under, you have to tell me the correct site, for acquisition, disposition of public property. Unless it's in your last minutes, maybe.
Virginia Code 2.2-377, or 3711A3, okay. All right. And is that all you have? Okay. Well, what I'm going to do at this point, since we're going to go back into closed session, I would like to just give you the reminders of the the future council meeting will be October 4th, 2022, closed session at 5:30. Public session at 7. And then if I can get a motion for us to go into closed session for one item under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A7, it's a consultation with legal counsel. And then one item under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A3, acquisition or disposition of real property.
So moved.
Second.
And may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Penn?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.